You know, in war, you're supposed to be able to see your enemy. But what happens when soldiers are fighting something they can't track, can't explain, and can't even see? Today, we're diving deep into a really unsettling series of events reported by U.S. Marines in Afghanistan. And these aren't just rumors. These are accounts from trained observers that just defy any simple explanation.
And that right there is the key. This isn't just some spooky campfire story. As the source material puts it, these are documented reports from military personnel in an active war zone. These are people whose lives literally depend on what they see and report, and they found themselves up against an enemy that modern warfare had no answer for.
So, to really get what happened here, we first have to understand where it happened. Our story takes place at a forward operating base in Afghanistan, specifically at this one lonely observation post that, well, built right on top of a very violent history. Okay, so try to picture this. You're in one of the most dangerous places on the planet. Your post is this little spot, maybe 20 feet up, built directly into the ruins of some ancient building. It's remote, it's old, and as the Marine station there were about to find out, it was not empty. So as the troops start digging in to fortify the post, they start finding things. And what they unearthed pretty much confirmed a dark local legend. They found old Soviet gear from the 80s, mixed in with even more ancient human remains. Turns out, they were sitting right on top of a mass grave, the exact spot where an entire platoon of Russian soldiers had been executed decades earlier. Now, the weirdness at the rock didn't start with shadows or whispers. Nope, it started with something way more practical, and for a soldier, way more terrifying. The complete and total failure of their most important gear. At first, it was small stuff, but it was relentless. A soldier would go on watch with a brand new, fully charged radio, and within minutes, the battery would just be completely dead. Same thing with their flashlights. But here's the crazy part. The second they got back to the main base, all their equipment worked perfectly fine again. And this is where things get really, really dangerous. Because it wasn't just batteries. Marines started reporting that their carbines, weapons they cleaned and maintained religiously, would just jam up or misfire for no reason at all. The one piece of gear you have to be able to trust became totally unreliable, but only at that one spot. And then, it wasn't just equipment failure anymore. People started hearing things. Guards would hear the sound of boots crunching on the gravel right outside, but when they checked their thermal scopes, there was nothing there. Just nothing. Moaning sounds on the wind. For one NCO, Corporal Oleg, it got way too personal. He reported hearing someone cough right behind him, followed by a voice whispering in his ear in Russian. He absolutely refused to ever go back to that post. But it didn't stop with weird sounds. What began as failing gear and whispers was about to escalate into a direct, visual, and absolutely horrifying encounter. The unseen threat was finally going to show itself, but in a way that completely broke the very technology designed to see in the dark. This right here is maybe the most chilling account of the whole thing. A guard sees a dark figure way out on the horizon. So he does what he's trained to do, flips down his night vision goggles. The figure is gone, just vanished. He lifts the goggles back up, and it's there again, but now it's impossibly closer. He keeps flipping the goggles up and down, watching this thing play a terrifying game of hide-and-seek until it's just 20 feet away, and then an invisible force physically slams into him. And look, we're not making this up. This account is pulled straight from the source reports. This whole night vision glitch was so specific and happened so often that multiple soldiers documented it. The very tool that was supposed to give them an advantage was somehow being used against them by an enemy that seems to know exactly how it worked. Okay, so what do you even do when your soldiers are reporting physical attacks by something they can't see? The military's response was logical, but the mystery just got deeper, leading to two very, very different ways of looking at it. So command does what you'd expect. They throw more men and more tech at the problem. They doubled the guards, brought in even better thermal cameras. The result? Absolutely nothing. The cameras saw no heat signatures. The next morning, patrols found 0 footprints in the sand where these figures had been seen. The stress got so bad that hardened Marines started fleeing the post, putting in official requests for transfers just to get away from the rock. So that leaves us with the million-dollar question, right? With all the tech failing and soldiers terrified, what could possibly explain what was happening out there?
All right, so basically the explanations break down into two main camps. On one side, you've got the psychological angle, things like combat stress, hallucinations from being tired and in the dark, and even group hysteria. And on the other side, you've got the paranormal. Are we talking about the ghosts of those Soviet soldiers, or something much older from local folklore, like the jinn?
Let's start with the scientific take. Combat stress is just immense. The brain, when it's pushed to its absolute breaking point, can literally create things that aren't there, sights and sounds, just to cope. And the fact that multiple soldiers saw similar things, well, that could be chalked up to group hysteria, where a shared belief just magnifies the effect on everyone. It is a documented phenomenon.
But then you have to consider the local folklore, an explanation that's been around for centuries, the jinn. In Islamic tradition, these aren't ghosts. They're powerful, non-human beings made of what's called smokeless fire, and they are believed to be able to interact with our world, often in a pretty nasty way. Given the ancient history of that place, it's a theory that makes a lot of sense in that context. So after you look at all the reports and weigh the different theories, you're left with this deeply unsettling mystery, an enemy that leaves no physical trace, but has a very real and very terrifying impact.
And that, right there, is the heart of it. You know, it's one thing to dismiss a single story from one soldier, but it's a whole other thing when you have multiple highly trained observers all independently reporting the exact same impossible series of events, especially that bizarre thing with the night vision. That's much harder to just write off as stress. In the end, the military has never officially commented on any of this, leaving the story of Outpost Rock just hanging there, in the shadows. So we're left with this final, chilling question. When our most advanced technology is useless, and our toughest soldiers are running scared, what kind of enemy is the one you can't even see?